Hi, I'm Tabitha Tripp. I'm the owner of Tender Hearts Home Healthcare. I've been doing a series on healthy aging, and I have with me, once again, Kim Ferreira, who is a dietitian for Coastline Elderly. Today we're going to be talking about gut health. Gut health. What we put into our stomachs can really affect how we feel, whether our stomachs are bloated or fat, and can probably even help to determine maybe not getting some cancers. But I really want to know, when you talk about this, what exactly is gut health?
I know it's kind of a funny term,
It
isn't
is.
it? Well, gut health and the health of our gut is extremely important. So I will give you this formal definition from Dr. Walker from Harvard that I have to read word for word because I can't memorize this. What is gut health? Well, according to this doctor's definition is, and I think it's a great definition, under normal colonized conditions, the large, diverse gut intestinal flora exists in a balanced ecosystem where health-promoting bacteria balance potential pathogens and there is no disease. What do you think that means?
Well, I think your gut is your intestine. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
Your intestine, your
Yes.
colon,
Yes.
anything to do with the stomach area
Yep.
is basically gut health.
Yes.
And then you talk about good bacteria and bad bacteria?
Yep.
So your body has to have both.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about the balance of both.
Yes. So what this definition means is our gut is very diverse. I mean, our gut is responsible for uptaking nutrients and regulating water and uptaking fluids. It's also responsible for digesting those indigestible food components, fermenting them, and expelling waste. So it is this ecosystem in a sense that there's all these different things that our gut is doing. And inside of this gut, we have good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. And when we have that balance, when that balance exists, you and I, we're sitting here, we're healthy, we're pretty much free of disease, and we've got good bacteria and bad bacteria. So that's kind of what this gut health, in essence, and what this definition is saying is, when we have that balance, we can be free of disease and be and move around healthy.
I think we kind of take it for granted, the properties of our gut.
Oh, absolutely.
You just think you feed it. You feed it and then then you expel it.
Right.
You don't really think about, the dynamics of what makes a healthy gut.
Right. And our gut is our largest immune system. So our gut is responsible for communicating with the rest of our GI system, so our stomach and our esophagus and our mouth, and also to the liver to deliver that immune response. So our gut is extremely important for that. And if that part doesn't exist, then the risk for disease and the risk for, not being 100% is going to be there.
So when we talk about disease, let's talk about as we age. What are some of the common risks that, the seniors are going to see?
Common issues in terms of our gut is regularity.
Oh, okay.
Typically irregularity. Right. And that's a huge issue. Constipation is a huge, huge problem amongst the older population and really relating with inactivity, inadequate fluids, and inadequate fiber. And really, it's really an issue across populations. We really can't just say it's the older population anymore. Another strong or common issue with the gut is irritable bowel. Very common as we get older, and that's typically bouts of gas and diarrhea and then constipation. So it's times where we're going really frequently and then we're not going at all. And then the third is just natural changes to our gut as we age. So what happens is we have all these gut microflora that help to move things along. As we age, that just changes. It naturally just changes. So the risk for the bad bacteria to stay there and proliferate is there. Also, our immune system just doesn't work as efficiently as it used to. So if we can't get that immune response working as fast as we can, it does allow that bad bacteria to really go at it strong and full force. Also, transit time. If people are having issues with regularity, those toxins, that waste stays in our gut longer. So again, it's creating this unequal balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria.
Okay, so that makes sense of why there has to be a balance.
Yep.
Speaking of which, a few years ago when that commercial first came out about probiotics, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
And Activia?
Activia.
Okay, Activia. And you hear this commercial and you're supposed to be eating this certain kind of yogurt with the probiotics. I hardly ever even heard of probiotics until I heard that commercial. So I'd like you to explain a little bit about probiotics.
Well, again, I will give you the formal definition. And it has not been formally defined until 2001. So it probably would make sense why you haven't really heard it for years and years and years, because it's just recently
But it's everywhere now.
Oh, it's absolutely everywhere.
You go into the store and, you know...
And that's one of the issues which we'll definitely talk about. So the definition from 2001 that they have formally decided what probiotics are they are live microorganisms which can confer health benefits on the host that help to repopulate good bacteria. So when delivered in the appropriate amount, because you can't just give your body all these probiotics, especially if you haven't had them before. So when they're delivered in the appropriate amounts, they help to replicate the good bacteria. So it helps to keep that balance more equal.
Regular.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
So in essence, that's really what probiotics are. Probiotics, there's been a lot of research over the last few years, and they have found, depending on the type of probiotic, the type of strain, the dose, and the disease, it's been shown to really help prevent and treat certain diseases. Anything from, irritable bowel all the way to different types of cancers.
So you can prevent a lot of this just by eating the foods that are rich in the probiotics.
There is research that is starting to support that, yes.
Wow. And I know we're going to start talking about what are some of the foods that have probiotics.
Yes.
So this is the fun part of the show.
Oh, yes. I think there's a couple of these that are unfamiliar to you, so this is good. So the downside with probiotics is they are typically in fermented milk products, is the main source, which means that's not a huge food source where it's coming from. So you can find it in sauerkraut, believe it or not. You can also find it in yogurts, and that's any, yogurt, whether it's flavored, or I even have a plain yogurt here, which I think you said earlier you haven't tried before.
No.
So yogurt's going to be the big one. There's also another item here that I thought I would bring because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with it. It's called kefir or kefir. It is a fermented milk that is a little bit thicker than a milk, but thinner than a yogurt. So we'll have you try that in a second. Those are going to be pretty much your main sources where you're going to get probiotics. What is important to note is that you really have to make sure that when you're buying a yogurt or this kefir, that it says it has live and active cultures in it, because not all of them will say that. So it's important to find that seal so you know that you are getting those true live active cultures.
But even before this whole hype about probiotics, did not yogurt say that, live active cultures on it?
They probably always did, but now we have this research that's coming out, and also what's happening is the media is taking this, and the food industry is taking this, and now we have all these products that are now, trying to be medicine or treatment for some of our gut issues.
But it's true. When you stop and think about it, there's so much I think that we can do by eating the proper foods that are going to hopefully keep us away from having to take so much medication. I don't know if I mentioned it to you on one of the other shows that we did. I knew someone that had terrible allergies, and she ended up going to a doctor. She was on all kind of medication. They changed her diet, and then she didn't have to take any more of her medication just by her diet.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of foods that we may have little sensitivities to that we never realized. It could be certain food additives, certain food preservatives. So depending on what your diet is like, it's not that easy to pinpoint things all the time. And if you're someone who eats a lot of processed foods, those certain ingredients may not really settle well with you. So absolutely, food can make a big difference in healing a lot of different types of conditions or diseases. So before we move further, I do want you to try this. So you have never had plain yogurt?
No, I've usually had the kind that has the berries, the strawberries mixed in.
We do have to be careful with yogurts because they can be loaded with sugar and loaded in fat. A funny story, when I was doing my internship in New York, I was doing my last rotation before I was done, and this patient came to me, and he brought in all these different samples of food. One of them was his food label for yogurt, and he was talking about how great it tasted, and he just loved it. And I pick it up, and of course, what do? I turn to look at the food label. And it had the most fat I have ever seen in a yogurt, the most sugar I've ever seen in a yogurt. And I said, well, no wonder it tastes so good. What's great about plain yogurt is yogurt naturally has sugar. It's the lactase. That is natural sugar that is from milk. So plain yogurt is not going to have any added sugars to it. It may taste a little bit more sour. You know, plain yogurt is a great substitute for sour cream because they almost taste identical, to be quite honest with you. So when people say, what are the best yogurt? I get that question all the time. Typically, plain is the best because you're not having any other added ingredients to it.
But you can add your own strawberries.
Absolutely. Right. So you can add your own components, whether you add some dried cranberries or some fruit or some granola or some nuts for crunch. So you can take this and play with it, so to speak. So I'm going to have you try it and see what you think about plain yogurt. But remember, you can add some things to it. And this is a Greek yogurt, so it is much thicker and richer in protein as well.
All right. I was going to ask you that when I saw that you brought it in. It said Greek. What is the difference between buying Greek yogurt versus...
Well, the Greek yogurt, they actually strain as much of the liquid out as they can. So if you think about most yogurts, and hopefully this one will have it.
I need some strawberries.
Yeah. So see how you see some liquid in there?
That's my kind of yogurt.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. This is a strawberry. There's some liquid that still is in the plain yogurt.
Oh, this is tasty. Don't get me wrong. It's just I'm not used to it.
It's not for everybody. It's a different change. It's a different taste to the palate if you're not used to having plain yogurt. So Greek yogurt gets rid of all that extra water, all that extra liquid, so it retains much more of the protein. Okay. So Greek yogurt is going to have
really
more protein,
healthier for you.
Well, it's plain yogurt. If it's lower in calories and sugar, it's going to have artificial sweeteners in it. So it's really going to be up to you whether you want to have something that has artificial sweeteners in it or stick to the natural way. That's fruit on the bottom, so you may want to stir it up.
I tried to get a little bit. But I would throw that on a baked potato.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're living alone or just with somebody, you can't buy a small container of sour cream. So those plain yogurts are the way to go because you don't have to spend as much money and you don't have to use that much of it, and you can use it on a variety of things. Instead of cheese and sour cream on your chili, throw a little scoop of plain yogurt.
So basically, I could just add my strawberries to that, smash them up, or get them a little liquidy.
Yep.
And add them. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to give it a try.
Good.
I really am. And I think I'll try that Greek from now on because you can really see the difference of how much it even looks healthier.
It's thicker. It has more protein in it. The only downfall is, depending on the brand, you have to look at the label. A lot of times the Greek yogurt won't have as much calcium in it. So it's that toss-up.
Okay.
But I have found differences in brands, so it is important to look at the different types of yogurts. The higher the percentage, obviously the better. So
definitely, I'm looking, this has got 8 grams of sugar compared to 21 grams of
That's
sugar.
a big difference.
That's huge.
Especially if you're a diabetic.
Yep, that's huge. And it's really not that many more calories. You're talking about 110 versus 120.
Yep.
And no fat.
Yep.
And this, of course, was a fat-free one also.
Right.
But
so when it's fat-free and sweetened, you know it's going to have a lot more sugar in it.
yeah.
So the kefir. So this is...
Now this I've never heard.
We're going to shake it a little.
I've never heard of. So this is like a mixture between yogurt and milk.
Absolutely. And you just had strawberry yogurt, so now you're having strawberry kefir. So now you can kind of taste the difference of strawberry yogurt versus strawberry.
And how much of this do you have a day?
You know, and that's a good question. People ask, you know, if I'm going to have probiotics, how much should I have in a day? You really have to work yourself up. Remember, these are live, active organisms. So if your body is not used to eating things like this, and you start having 2 or 3, you know, containers or 2 or 3 glasses a day, you're going to feel some gassiness and some bloatiness because your body's not used to having that. So if you're starting to say, hey, I think I want to start including more yogurt, I want to get more probiotics, start slow. You know,
So you will get gassy and bloaty by drinking too much of something like this?
Because you're
Not used to
you're
it.
offsetting what your body is used to having.
So it takes a while for your body to get used to something for it to start to be beneficial because it's supposed to be beneficial, correct?
Yes, it is. So give it time, and if you sense that you start with a whole container of yogurt and you're feeling a little bit that way, cut down to a half. Do that for a few days until your body again gets used to that, because you are introducing something kind of new if you haven't been ever consuming these types of products.
Now this is good. What I would like to do to this is throw it in a blender and throw some extra strawberries in and make like a frap or a smoothie out of it.
And you absolutely could. In terms of cost, that is probably going to be a little bit more expensive than what regular yogurt is, but just to give people options,
Right.
Because it does taste a little bit different than yogurt.
It does.
Yep.
It does.
Absolutely. So I know you see some other foods over here, and I do want to mention them because I know time goes so fast. There's another form of foods called prebiotics, and these are the non-digestible food components, aka fiber, that also have been shown to provide health to the gut. So these are some foods that the fiber in them tend to have that nice prebiotic fiber that helps to keep those probiotics nice and strong and thriving.
So these are foods without the probiotics but are healthy.
They're called prebiotics.
For the gut.
Exactly. Okay. So that's your artichokes, a lot of your onion group, so your onions, your garlic, your leeks. Those types of foods do have that kind of gut health components that, you know, help to work with the probiotics to keep the gut healthy.
Right. Okay.
So make sure you're including those in your diet. You know, garlic and onion you can pretty much add to anything when you're cooking.
So when we think about foods like this, how much should we have in our diet in order to have the probiotics and the prebiotics be beneficial?
This is when it's really difficult to answer, because we have, again, food manufacturers that have gone wild with all sorts of products like Activia and Dan Acton, and there's now a supplement called Align.
They have it in children's yogurts too, I think, now too.
Right. And the literature and the research right now is saying yes, we are finding it's very helpful, but there's no standard medicine. There's no standard treatment that you can go into your doctor and say, okay, you know, have 3 cups of yogurt a day. We're not there in
it's
being
not regulated yet as far as you know, how much to have.
Right. So we have these in the food market, and we have the food market, you know, pushing these products out that says take it, take it, take it. I know Activia, it says have up to 3 a day. But in terms of medicine and literature and research,
they don't know.
They're not saying that yet. That we're not there to have a standard treatment. So we have this kind of, you know, vague area of we know that it's healthy for us, but we can't really say this is how much you need to have every single day, because there's tons of different strains of probiotics, and they do a little bit different. They may help in different areas of our body in terms of diseases and conditions. So there's a lot of work still that needs to be done.
Right.
So hopefully we can get to the point that we can say, 5 cups of fruits and vegetables are what we should have in a day. So many servings of probiotics are what we need in a day.
So right now, is it safe to say to stay kind of within a guideline that they're giving you, even though we don't know for sure? Because, all right, granted, we want to make sure we're having enough, but what if we have too much?
Well, you should know if you're having too much because you're going to feel those GI symptoms. And again, right now, as of what I know, I don't know what the literature says in terms of too much. We're just kind of in this, holding period. But to include them in our diet and, again, work yourself up, you're going to help to, again, make sure that you're including those good bacteria so that you have that even amount of good to the bad.
Now, there's also probiotic supplements.
There are some that have been out in the market. There are some that I know maybe some doctors are prescribing.
Now, once again, we don't know exactly how safe they are either, do we?
Well, it is a supplement. It's not a medicine.
Right.
And it's not an official treatment. So we just have to keep that in mind, that it is considered a dietary supplement, and it's not considered a medicine, and it's not supposed to be something that you can say, all right, well, I have irritable bowel. Yep, I need probiotics.
Yeah.
It's not that guaranteed. We still do have to look at the bigger picture as well. But if you are someone who, in the aging population, have had excessive antibiotics, I didn't want to forget to mention this, is over time, if you've had excessive use of it, it really just wipes our good bacteria away. So to be able to start to...
I'm sorry, what does that?
Antibiotics. Excessive use
okay.
or long-term use of antibiotics, which is common in the older population, really does a number on our gut and can just wipe that good bacteria away. So it is important to, again, have a little bit in your diet, but you have to work what's in your comfortability. And also the nice thing is yogurt also has a good source of calcium, so it's a good way to get the calcium in. So when we discuss bone health, it's another component.
So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have my lunch because whenever we do these shows, I get so hungry. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you,
As always, it's such a pleasure to have you, and I just walk away here wanting to go to the store. And thank you for joining us. And it really is good, to be honest with you. The Greek yogurt, I'm just going to add a little strawberries. Thanks for joining us.